Okay. Sorry everybody about the delay because I had some problem with my cell phone, so I'm speaking from my laptop, but it should be fine. Can you hear me okay now, Rebel? And maybe I guess you can confirm that, please.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so let's go. Let's see. We have some speakers, so let's see if it allows me doing this. Accept co-host invite. Yeah. Okay. So I think now we're game. Let me just send everybody a message, and then we can move on. Okay. All right. So this talk is about dentistry scam and cures. So I think they go hand in hand. We have to cover, where these people are wrong and what are some good ideas about how to help with your teeth problems. So that's where we are at. And so I have some prepared remarks. I'll just go over these prepared remarks, and then Rebel. Just so everybody knows, Rebel is basically, she and I are on the same plane on this. We think very similarly about dentists and what they do and what they should not do. So that's the reason she's hosting it, and I'll invite her to jump in and whenever she wants to correct me or add some things, it's so that we can also hear from her. So I'll do some simple prepared remarks, and then after that we'll just open the floor and Rebel can take questions at a time. I think that's the best way to hash it out. So each question, and we go over each question in detail. So yeah, if you have looked at my article on dentistry, basically, I'll cover the main points. The first is that children and young adults should never need to go to a dentist. I think that's where these people have it all wrong, and many of these things called caries and cavities which children have, they basically fill up by themselves as they reach adolescence. Capping the teeth will result in this process being interfered with, and so for children, especially like 5-10-year-old children, I think it's completely ridiculous that they cap their teeth and everything, saying that they'll fill up the caries. And then the caries theory is ridiculous because if it was a bacterial infection, it's not like bacteria is not very large. So if you cap one side of the tooth, they can move to the other side. So they basically are not helping in any way. They're just doing an unnecessary procedure, which I think can be avoided. And the exception is aesthetics, when children and teenagers use braces to straighten their teeth or something like that, but it has nothing to do with health. So that's one. Secondly, root canals, I think, are a complete no-no in my book. I think it's a bizarre procedure. They're removing the pulp. This is a major, they do remove a large part of the top part of the tooth. I think it's something which should not be done. I have no idea how they came up with this bizarre therapy, which they do all the time. So I think it's to be avoided. The other one is wisdom teeth, which I believe that nature gave them to you for a reason. I think you should stick with them. There's no reason to remove them. And dental implants or implanted teeth, where they'll screw a tooth into your gum, they don't work in the sense that they don't last very long. They'll claim that they last for 10 years, but in all my experience, they've lasted for 2 to 5 years. And just the hassle and the drilling they do, I don't know. I believe it's not worth it. It's now, it is fine to lose some teeth. Nature gave us 28 to 32 of them, so there's redundancy there. The teeth have firm roots. Removing one does not destabilize the others. This is the common fear which they sell, that if you remove one, and leave it open, that the others may move and make them weaker, etc., etc. It's simply not true. If you see the root or the way they extract them, the root really goes down, and they're separate teeth. There's no need to worry about something next to one, because removing one will not affect the other. They're designed to be lost. That's why they are redundant. if it was not so, we'd just have one huge jaw tooth, at the top and one at the bottom. The other is encrusted teeth, which, sometimes you find teeth below your regular teeth. I have this problem, and there's no need to remove them. They just stay there. There's nothing to do. But obviously the dentists, want to scare you. Oh, you have to do something because, there's money to be made there. So that's the main goal. Dental cleaning is a scam. It's good until it's even if it was something useful, and only until the next time you eat something. If it's for infections, etc., which they claim, like bacterial infections, unless you will never eat again, it can't be any doing anything good. Then let's see. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So I'd rather just open it up for everybody and let people say what they want to say or ask. We can do specific questions from anybody, and if not, I'll just keep going, and summarize what I have in the article. Rebel, can you hear me?
I'd like to ask you about the wisdom tooth.
Okay.
So you're saying they're not needed, but when you say they're not needed, like they're not needed to be taken out, I had that the dentist convinced me that if I don't take them out, I'm going to just turn into a vampire. And the only thing now is I feel that the teeth have shifted, in fact, in the back. I don't know, like I don't know if it's a good idea to even remove anything, because I fear that there is more space. Is that even true?
Well, it's a normal tooth, so it has been taken out, and they are independent, so it should have no effect on the lateral teeth. Is that what you meant by the question, or?
Yeah, and I think and they took out the molar, really. For me, it was 4 wisdom tooth. They took out the extra molars, or not extra, because they were not harming, they were not hurting. They just took them out.
Right. And as you have a hole there, and that'll retain food. So then
Yes.
they come with the idea that you have to implant something in there. It's just, there's no need. If you have a hole there, you just clean it up, maintain it clean. And just as at the side of your gums or in your mouth generally, there's no reason to remove them. They do come out in spurts, so they don't hurt you, for several years, and then one fine day they start hurting you, and that's where most people end up at the dentist, and the dentist says, remove these wisdom teeth. But basically, if you use clove oil, and as I go into the article, if you use clove oil or antibiotics, I think antibiotics are useful because of their anti-inflammatory property, not because they're antibiotics. Same with clove oil, which is also an antibiotic. But basically, it cuts away the inflammation and it helps you with the healing part locally. Just use that, and when the wisdom tooth starts coming out, you do it for a couple of days, and then it just subsides. I've seen that, with many cases myself, that if it hurts, you just use these sort of simple therapies, and the pain subsides in maximum 24 hours or 48 hours.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. All right. So nobody has raised any questions, so we'll just keep going. The other part is about cavities. So I mentioned this earlier. Cavities are not due to bacterial infections. They are wounds. So they hurt because certain materials like acids, etc., they burn. Same as putting, for example, lemon juice in your eyes or in the wound. It just hurts. So there's a damaged part there, and it comes in contact with certain strong chemicals / acids. It hurts you. But there's no bacteria floating around there, bacterial infections or colonies there, and that's the way to look at it. So once you realize it's a physical injury and there are no bacterial colonies, I think you kind of deal with them differently. Let's see. We covered the antibiotics part. Let's see. In later years, yeah, in later years, I mean, if you have trouble with teeth, especially older people, it's best to just get the tooth removed and leave the opening as it is. I mean, I know of several cases myself where it has worked fine instead of going for implants or uh, any of these very painful and expensive therapies. The implants especially are quite expensive and very painful. I mean, they drill a hole into your gum and put a new tooth. I mean, I think it's not necessary. It falls off. It's not permanent anyway, 2 to 5 years. So it's better to leave the opening as it is. And one suggestion is to eat softer foods. I think that's the way to solve this problem. I mean, babies eat soft food and it's fine. There's no reason why in old age you would not eat softer foods and just get by just fine. Um, the other some good things which they make are dentures and bridges. These are removable parts. They're low risk, so there's no permanence or claim to permanence there. So I think people can buy dentures and bridges, and they can be removed, they can be reversed. These are all good stuff because there's no permanent damage or change necessary, and they're not painful. I mean, you get a denture or these, anything you put in the mouth which can be removed basically is reversible, and if you don't like it, you just don't use it. So I think those are good. And similarly for bruxism, which I had an episode 20 years ago or 15 years ago, you have to use a soft separator, not the hard custom made one which these dentists sometimes sell you, because it costs a lot and it hurts you. So I think that's not a very good use of your time or money. Better to buy a soft one and sleep with it. Some muscle relaxants help, so you can use them to kind of help with the jaw opening and so on, and in a few days it goes away. But definitely, I'm all for using inserts or dentures or bridges or these separators, as long as they are removable and reversible, so that it's not permanent. Let's not pretend that anything can be done permanently or for 10 years or something like that without a major surgery kind of an intervention. Let's see. We're getting used to this new scheme of talking here. All right, so I'll keep going on some of the other points in the article. See that there are still no. If you have specific questions, just holler, and let's go over each question in detail. I think that's what I had in mind. So I'm open to that. Let's see. Let me open that article again. Yeah, I think maybe I'll mention a little bit more about what we call antibiotics, like amoxicillin and penicillin. These are older generation antibiotics, and they work as anti-inflammatories. Basically, that's their main use. And I think using them to take care of pain is definitely, it works. I think the mechanism they may not know themselves, which is fine. So I think a limited use of them is okay. And same with using clove oil or eugenol, eugenol, which is the chemical ingredient in it, in clove oil. That's the one they use actually. If you go to dentists, you'll find that basically they're it's that clove oil smell which they leave you with. So that's eugenol. Let's see what other points we can cover. Yeah, there's some talk about using the kind of toothpaste you use. I think it's kind of ridiculous to think that 5 minutes of toothpaste per day can change your teeth health in any way. I mean, Colgate and all these companies keep advertising using dentists. I mean, this is it's not going to have much of an effect, a long-term effect on your teeth or your mouth. And you can use pretty much anything you want, but I don't believe that fluoride is positive or negative as long as you hold it in your mouth and you spit it out after brushing your teeth. It's not going to cause you any harm, or I believe do you even any good. The reason why we clean teeth, which is it's never for health reasons. I mean, it's just a nice smell you get, because there's food particles or some decayed food particles. So you wake up in the morning, it smells bad. Or if you smell a dog or a cat, or especially dogs, they smell bad in the mouth because they're not brushing their teeth. But their teeth are healthy. I mean, they last for 15, 20 years. The jaw system is basically the same in all the higher mammals. So there's nothing special about being human. And if you look at the animals around you, especially the big mammals like dogs, cats, and monkeys, or even slightly different animals like alligators or elephants. I mean, these have large teeth. They're not brushing their teeth. They're not going to a dentist, and they live several decades, each one of them. So the health benefit of dentistry is really it's not necessary. It's these animals go by just fine, and we can observe very carefully animals like dogs, domesticated dogs, and learn some things from them. So that's why cleaning the teeth is I think it's a good feeling, just as you don't want to smell bad things from the methane, but it has no health value in my opinion. So I think there's a lot of things to learn about health from animals in general. So about teeth also, I try to observe, what works for animals generally works for us. Let's see some other points I'm trying to dig up. The only exception where I think I will not comment on is aesthetics. So, for example, there are uses of a chipped tooth. It doesn't look very good, so you can get a dental cement, and the dentists know how to put local anesthesia and cement that part which has chipped off. So that looks kind of nice. So nothing wrong with that. So aesthetics is different from health. And for aesthetics, whether it's plastic surgeries or dental implants, I mean, if you have a huge hole and you're kind of young and want to do something, I mean, I would say get a denture, if possible. There are some very cool materials. There's a plastic kind of material, malleable plastic it's called. I have myself made some teeth using it, and it works very well. It's a temporary solution, and remember that there's nothing permanent about these things. The dentists, when they claim that they last for a long time, I mean, it simply doesn't work that way. So it's fine to have reversible temporary solutions and keep doing them. So that's the way I look at it. And let's see. There is, dental checkups. They keep doing them. They want, to do them regularly because of preventative maintenance. I mean, basically, preventative maintenance in medicine in general, and especially dentistry, is just, I mean, you basically sell this idea that if you keep coming to me, I'll look for the problems in advance or prevent them in advance. And I mean, you basically take care of the healthy people like that, or you build the healthy people like that. Vaccines are like that too. I mean, you basically are vaccinating all these healthy people, saying that they're preventative to get the disease. So I think there's a huge industry there, basically to sell you preventative medicine, and I think it's better to just wait for the problem and try to fix it after that, rather than to fall for the what they call preventative medicine. And I wrote this on my article that compare it to if you have a car and you take it to several mechanics, you'll realize that many of them will say, well, you can get this maintenance, that maintenance, that maintenance, and you can do an experiment. Take a car which has, I don't know, 50,000 miles, and go to 5 mechanics, and they'll give you 5 different ways you can improve your car or prevent the next breakdown. And the knowledge of dentists about teeth is 100 times worse or less than what a car mechanic understands about cars, because cars are far more simpler. I mean, these are made by humans for humans. So preventative maintenance for teeth and everything. I mean, there's dental checkups, regular checkups, whether it's dentistry or other general medicine. I mean, I think there's no need for doing that. It's just a billing scheme, and many of them, it's just they're trying to scare you and saying, get this done, remove this tooth, otherwise it'll hurt. For example, I told you about the encrusted tooth I have, and in my X-ray they show up as 3 teeth below the lower jaw, and the dentist said, well, in a few years this thing is going to come out, it's going to cause problems, and I listened to him, and thank God, I said, well, we'll just see when trouble comes. And this was 25 years ago, and those teeth are just there, they don't do anything. And yeah, if they do come out and start giving me problems, I'll do the therapies which I said, which is using clove oil and antibiotics, painkillers like ibuprofen. I think that's useful. Some people don't like ibuprofen; they can use paracetamol or some other diclofenac, which are other painkillers. But basically, you're doing that instead of these very invasive procedures which dentists recommend. So I think that's the way to deal with it. And except when you're old or some tooth is hurting very bad, and the solution then is to get it removed, but never put a dental implant or try to save the tooth by doing a root canal, which is kind of, I mean, if you look at the details of what that does, they remove the pulp, they fill it up with some resin, which is basically a rubber, and it's the same material they use for insulation of wires, by the way, that goes in your mouth in root canals. And you're just filling it up, and then they do take away a large part of the top tooth, and then they say they're saving the tooth. So it's a contradiction right there. I mean, if you want to save my tooth, don't remove it or most of it. So I think it's better to just use these remedies, and if something is very bad and you just can't get out of the pain, just remove it and leave the hole there. If you're going to get, just because of aesthetics, or if you feel that needs to have something, I mean, get a denture made, get a temporary tooth made, or a removable denture kind of thing, removable tooth, but not a permanent solution, which, as I said, is not permanent. The implant ones, they are just they just fall off. I have several people who I know who got these implants in several countries, and they lasted from 2 to 5 years. They were not permanent, and they cost several thousands of dollars. So that claim is simply wrong, and it's better off to just leave a hole, or cover it up with a temporary tooth, or a denture, and or bridges are also very good. And then keep masticating, and obviously as we grow older, we have to eat in general softer foods, because because as you know, I mean, our teeth, don't have that force when we are younger, and I mean, I could break a walnut, when I was 20 years old with my mouth, but not anymore. I'm 50 now, so you have to, adjust to that. And I'm sure, as you grow older, you're 80, you cannot, eat something like even wheat, and then you have to make a diet change and eat softer things. I think that's the way to embrace your aging of your natural development, rather than getting stuff done which doesn't work. I mean, obviously I would not have a problem with dentists, or their procedures if they worked, and they left me well off. I mean, they left me in good shape, but they simply don't work. So in the absence of that, I'm more of the inclination of changing your diets, eating softer things, newer things, so that it's not so hard on your teeth. So that's basically what I'm saying there. Let's see what other points we can cover. Just a small point there that when you have bruxism, they say, well, it's stress which is causing you bruxism. You have to remove the stressful parts of your life, and I'm not so sure there's any disease which is due to stress, because diseases to me are somatic, and physical causes need to be there, not psychological causes, because I mean, everybody is stressed all the time. How do you measure stress anyway? So it's once you see a problem, you find the stress, but it should be the other way around. I mean, you should be able to tell somebody is stressed out and then see if they have a problem. So I think it's just not known what is meant by stress, when I'm stressed out, when I'm not stressed out. So the stress theory of bruxism is not really very strong, because we can't measure stress. But I think focusing on lifestyle changes, etc. I mean, they're going into psychoanalysis and psychology, and I mean, I think the dentists who are doing these bruxism things, they just use stress as an excuse. But I believe that causes are somatic, and you ate something bad, or something is amiss in your mouth, in your chemical, in your body, and that's why you have this bruxism attack, and then you can't masticate, you can't open your mouth. And then the best way is, as I said, get a silicone separator, which is softer, rather than these plastic separator which these people make, which will leave you worse off, and that's, I tell you from personal experience. And not to mention that several thousands of dollars for making it custom. I mean, it's a plastic piece which costs $2, and I mean, all the rest is basically going into in these people's pockets. And I think the way to go there is just a simple silicone separator. Let's see. Rebel, do you want to add some comments, something else, some questions, whatever? Go ahead, please.
I think I had similar experience, especially when it related to my wisdom teeth. I strongly regret going to them, because they convinced me, and I was young and naive, and I believed them. I think they were not needed to be taken out. I think it's a complete scam. And they tried to convince me to fill up some cavities. Luckily, at that time, I had woken up and I walked away. But cavities is another. I'm not. I mean, if my teeth feel fine and nothing is stuck, it's fine. So I walked away. So that's one less thing to worry about. But definitely, wisdom tooth, I 100% regret going to them and believing their lies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for these cavities, you were how old at that time? In your 30s?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, cavities is sometimes they come back up, And what did you do? What was your strategy to cure it or help for that?
So they were trying to convince me to say there are some cavities. I couldn't see them. I just walked away. Nothing. I've done nothing. I after that I just stopped going to the dentist completely, 100%.
And then they basically filled up, or they just stopped hurting you after that, correct?
They never hurt me to begin with.
Okay.
So that's where I think the disconnect, when they were saying there were cavities, but it was not hurting me. There was no problem. So there was maybe I mean I didn't understand what they were trying to say, but 100% I just walked away and never looked back. I've never gone back to them since.
Yeah, I remember some woman I think we follow who made a comment that her son went to a dentist and they said we have to fill up all these cavities, and the son was like, in your situation, he's like, nothing is hurting. I mean, why are we filling up? He's like, well, there are cavities. And then apparently they went to another dentist and they found out that there were no cavities. The other dentist said his teeth are clean, there's no cavities at all. So they're making it all up too, because cavities, I mean, they'll bill a few $100s for each cavity / tooth filled up. So yeah, I mean, and those cavities, I mean, from my experience, capping them or putting something on them, I mean, it doesn't do much. Obviously, if you treat it like a wound, I have had that situation where there's a cavity and some materials or something hard I eat may hurt it. But then, avoid eating that, and it goes away after some time. It heals up just like any other wound in the body. And that's why the bacterial infection theory which they have, I mean, the probability of bacteria infecting you is the same in your teeth or in the rest of the mouth. I mean, why would they go under your teeth, inside and in your pulp of your tooth to infect you? Well, because it just, and then they can move anyway. So it just doesn't hold water, this idea of bacterial infection / their relationship to cavities. But if you think of cavities as basically chemicals, sugar has some role to play there, because I know that children will eat sugary stuff and then they have cavities, and then it does hurt them when they eat sugary stuff. So sugar apparently converts into some acid, and that's what hurts these children. But the solution of putting a cap on it or a crown or something doesn't do much, because you're just interfering with the natural development of the tooth, especially for children. So you just have to leave it like that, and change your diet, see what you're eating which is causing all these cavities. So for children, we know it's sugary stuff does seem to cause some damage to children's teeth, and eat less sugary stuff and brush more and keep it clean, and that's it. But there's no reason to put caps or these huge things which they're putting in people's mouths. So yeah, that's a good example of but those things can happen later on in our life too, and the strategy is exactly the same, using the same chemicals / therapies which I mentioned. I'm a big fan of clove oil. I have it with me all the time, and sometimes antibiotics and ibuprofen, and just keeping it clean. And so far my wisdom teeth are intact, and so are of most of my family members, and we go on just fine. Okay. Anything else, Rebel, you want to touch upon now that we are here? This is recorded, so people can hear this later on and go over these notes later.
I don't have a question. Anyone else has a question? I'm the co-host, so there is an option to raise hand if anyone has a question or they want to speak up.
Any problems you've had, specific problems with dentists, root canals, or filling the stuff with your children, etc. You want to tell something or ask some questions, please go ahead. Okay. So let's see. So I guess we've covered most of it. There is an article on my website which goes over many of these things in a little bit more detail. And feel free to follow me and ask me some specific questions if you have. And I guess we can close this space now and see you next time. If I do want to have some other topics covered. I want to cover some other topics like flu, which I have some experience with, and back pain. So we may do some other spaces on those. But okay, so we can sign off, and you guys have a good afternoon or good evening wherever you are. Bye, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for everybody for coming.